Impulse at Knoebels Amusement Resort is one of two Zierer Tower Coasters in the world. This coaster stands at 98 feet, has an angle of descent of 90 degrees, speeds up to 50 miles per hour, 4 inversions, and the track length is under 2,000 feet, making this coaster very short in length. The coaster doesn't feel short whenever you're on the ride, but you can definitely tell if you're looking at the ride that it does not have that much track. Honestly, this coaster is pretty solid for what it's got going for it. Not a very long length, not a very tall height, but it still executes every element perfectly. Although this ride isn't the biggest or tallest in the world, it still is a pretty solid coaster. It does have quite a few elements that are very, very good, and the worst part about this ride is probably the restraints. If you are really big into coasters, you might know that Impulse actually got new trains a couple of years ago so that they didn't have to have booster seats anymore. Knoebels used to make you have a booster seat if you weren't a certain height, but now with the new trains, you can still be that height and not need a booster seat and just ride normally. With that, you got new restraints as well, and these are the biggest downside of the new trains. The trains have pretty comfortable seats, but the restraints just suck. They staple you pretty hard, especially on the base of the drop, and they're just pretty uncomfortable compared to the old ones. The older restraints, I really like them, honestly. They were very comfortable. They just weren't as restrictive. You felt more free. Anyways, let's talk about the ride experience now with the new trains. Impulse starts with an unbanked right turn out of the station. This turn is taken at a slow pace, so it doesn't provide much laterals. The vertical lift hill takes you upwards 98 feet before dropping you down toward the ground at 90 degrees. I like this vertical lift more than the other vertical lift hills such as Fahrenheit's because of the fact that there is only a lap bar on this ride. The drop is okay, but don't expect to get much airtime because there is only 2 rows. You will get some weak floater, but that's about it. The base of the drop doesn't pull decent G's, but on a hot day it could make you gray out, but it's pretty rare. The Cobra roll is pretty graceful, unlike the snappy B&M and Intamin Cobra rolls. You glide through this element at decent speeds, and there isn't a rattle unlike Fahrenheit's. The reason I'm comparing this coaster to Fahrenheit is because Fahrenheit also has a vertical lift, beyond vertical drop, some similar inversions, and is located only an hour and a half away. The loop on Impulse is pretty mediocre. It is your standard loop, but without much force. You can get a little hang time on the loop sometimes if you get a morning ride, but once again, it's pretty rare. You meander around some turns before hitting the best element of the ride, the inline twist. This inversion offers great hang time and in my opinion is a very underrated inversion. This is definitely the best part of the ride and in my top 5 inversions. Even if you get stapled, you still get hang time on this element. Before the restraint change, you got loads of hang time. It was insane. The new restraints restrict the hang time a bit, but it's still a great inversion. You pull out of the inline twist and into a helix that also could make you gray out on a hot day, and then you glide into the brakes. This ride sort of feels like Knoebels wanted to put as many gimmicks into their first steel coaster as possible. A vertical lift, a 90-degree drop, 4 inversions including a loop, hang time, and some moments of decent positive G's. It's funny how Knoebels put 0 airtime on this ride. It's like they knew that nothing could beat the standing up on Phoenix. I recently made a video saying that this is the worst coaster at Knoebels, but after my rides this past week, my opinions have somewhat changed. The laterals save Twister from being the worst coaster here, and flying turns is much more enjoyable than Impulse. I do think that Impulse beats Cosmo's curves, though. The inline twist is saving grace for this ride, in my opinion. If Impulse didn't have this inversion, I'd say scrap it and replace it. If you want to see what I think Knoebels' next coaster could be, click on the card up on screen now. Anyway, this ride doesn't do much with its layout, which is why Phoenix still dominates Knoebels. Anyways, that will about wrap up my review of Impulse. Thank you for watching, and I will see y'all later. Bye.